Welcome back to the podcast. Today's special guest is Johnson Space Center Public Affairs Officer Leah Cheshier-Mustachio on broadcasting the story of Artemis 2. So, Leah, I was up there earlier watching the loop, and I know you've been off and on as commentator since this all started. And there was a particular part where they're getting ready to go into the no communication zone. I can't remember the acronym. I can't keep up with all the acronyms, but
right,
yeah,
like the LOS.
the LOS. That's it. And Victor, well, you had made some comments, and then Victor had made some comments, and I think you said "How Great Thou Art," naming the song. So that poignant for me because that's one of my favorite songs as a believer, and they played that song.
Me too.
Yeah, they played that song at my grandfather's funeral, and that was his favorite song. So I went, oh,
Oh my gosh. See, I have a new, well, he's not new anymore. He's almost a year old, but I have a little boy, and I have sang that song to him so many times in the last years. I've rocked him to sleep. So I was rocking him to sleep a few weeks ago and just thinking about like this day and, how I would feel and things I would probably be thinking about. And that just came out today.
Yeah, and I'm glad it did. And coupling that with what Victor had said previously, about the greatest command, and the second is this, and so I thought it was a really good marriage of both science and faith on display today through NASA. So.
I think so too.
Yeah. So I wanted to get some of your experiences so far being doing commentary for Artemis too. I talked to Gary and interviewed him the other day and asked him similar questions because I know he was, I think maybe one of the first ones that did the commentary, and you were there shortly thereafter, and I got some of his experiences and they were very interesting, and I wanted to get yours. So start us off when you took over doing commentary as part of Artemis 2. Which day did you start?
So I started on flight day one.
Okay.
Gary covered ascent, and as soon as the crew was out of that ascent time frame, they stepped into proximity operations. So I really came on console about 2 hours after launch, and I covered the proximity operations where Victor Glover was manually piloting the spacecraft. And then I've been part of the Orbit 1 team. So our shift has been a little bit different every day, but we have 3 orbit teams, 1, 2, and 3. So Orbit 1 is the crew is awake, they're working on the spacecraft. So I've been aligned with that flight control team every day.
Okay. And do you remember what you were thinking when you first went on the air, first started broadcasting? Everything is live around you.
I was nervous because proximity operations is really dynamic. This is the first time that obviously we've had people living in Orion. And so it was also the first time that somebody's going to take controls and manually pilot Orion. But I've been in a lot of sims. And so I know that Victor was going to talk pretty much the whole time and explain step by step, which makes my job easier for that specific shift. But I was also just so... I don't know. It's electric whenever you get to step into something so dynamic as that, and you get to be part of this mission that we've really seen over the last week. People are just latching onto, and it's inspiring so many people around the world, which is such a testament to the crew. But stepping on for your first shift is having to trust yourself that the preparation that you've done is enough, and now you're ready to go and actually do the work.
How much of what we see and what we hear from the commentary is based off maybe things being pre-scripted, we've got these points that we're going to talk about, and how much is extemporaneous, maybe feedback like we experienced today with some of your own personal words and thoughts?
Oh gosh, I would say it depends on the day. So today, I gathered talking points from different groups. We talked about some mission control rooms that are at another center, and obviously that's not in my realm. And so getting talking points from the relevant people of those places is pretty important. So things like that, talking points about maybe like the deep space network, but for most things, especially operational work, that would be us. So I would just say, if you had to, maybe 85% is unscripted.
Really?
Yeah. We don't have a teleprompter. We don't really have anything like that. We have our own notes from our preparations, but Yeah, I mean, I personally keep notes, but I don't typically read verbatim from anything.
Okay, and that kind of leads into the next question. I guess connecting these two thoughts together, you talked about some of the resources that you pull together for information. Now, I know you have shifts. Are they 8 hour shifts, 10 hour shifts?
They're about 9 hours right
Nine
now.
hours. Okay, and so how much of that time is you are doing the commentary as opposed to putting stuff together, getting resources to get ready for the next time you're on the ship? Is that an entire 9 hours something where you're on video, on audio, or is it just a certain percentage of that time you're doing that?
Yeah, the entire 9 hours is on air.
Uh,
So anything that I'm working for the next flight day is just done in brief pauses, 5 minutes here or there. But it really has all been worked ahead of the flight. So, we knew some of the things that the crew would be working on. We knew what translunar injection burn looks like, and we know what lunar flyby looks like. And so sitting in sims, for I think I did 19 sims where you're sitting with the flight control team and hearing all the engineering issues that crop up, and learning about what they'll be working on throughout the mission and studying those things. That really happens before launch, just because we are live that entire 9 hours and just wouldn't have time to prepare for the next day.
how do you stay focused on? I mean, obviously you have a lot going on. There's audio and there's different media packages that you guys will play interspersed throughout the broadcast. For context. I think those are very interesting. How do you keep all that together in your head? I mean, there's a lot of moving parts going on at one time.
Yes, there are. It is a learned trait. So basically, I think the best way to describe it, because, we have the same loops that the rest of the flight control team has.
Mm-hmm.
And so at any time, we could have 7 or 8 conversations in our ear. And, we're also working on pulling up a package or speaking to what's happening on the screen. And so the best analogy is like if you are in a lunchroom, like a busy lunchroom, and you hear your mom say your name, all of a sudden, you know what you're listening for, and all the other conversations don't matter. So it's all about learning what to listen for and what you can, I don't want to say ignore, but what you can, put out in the background. So that for me is the most important thing to staying focused, is knowing that I don't have to be aware of every single conversation that's going on. I just need to know what to listen for, like any issues that are happening or something like that.
When you leave, your 9 hours are up, whether it was today or the previous 5 days. Are you able to just say, okay, work is over, time to go. I've got to go home. Family life takes over, or does it stay with you? Does it linger throughout the night?
I think I'm on a better shift than some people. Some people who are trying to sleep during the day are still getting blown up quite a lot because the crew is working during the day. I do get a little bit at night, but, the crew will go to sleep not long after I go to sleep. And so things get a little quieter around that time. And I'm able to let the other, team members take over for a little bit, but it is not something that you can necessarily walk away from altogether.
I would imagine. So, Leah, how long have you been a PAO with JSC?
I have been at NASA in total 10 years,
Okay.
but I've been a public affairs officer for 8 years.
Okay. Has it always been at JSC or any of the other locations?
Yes, always JSC.
Okay. Now, I know from the little over 4 years I've been coming out there doing press conferences and interviews, I know I've seen you MC or commentate press conferences and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Compare that, the preparation for that, to this. Is there, I mean, I know there's probably some comparison, but I'm sure there's quite a bit of difference between the two.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a press conference is very brief, and that is something that I feel like if I needed to tonight, I could run and do.
Hmm.
It's important to know the subject matter. It's important to listen in real time, just like it is in mission control. But it's not as operational. So a press conference, you're really allowing the panelists essentially to do the talking. We do the introductions. We do the, maybe a brief overview and a wrap pointing people to other coverage, but not I wouldn't say it's super similar to live commentary, because just commentary can be so much more technical and having to understand the actual spacecraft and the engineering behind it.
When you're doing commentary so far with Artemis, well, actually, let me ask you this: did you do commentary on Artemis 1?
I did. I was
Okay.
the commentator for launch. So yeah, I covered the ascent for Artemis 1 from JSC.
So what are the similarities? Obviously, there's humans on this crew as opposed to no humans on Artemis 1. But is that the real main difference? Was there any difference in how you approached preparing for this?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for Artemis 1, being on for launch, and I was on for translunar injection burn for that as well, because they were very close together. Those are so different because you're not hearing from the crew as much. There aren't a bunch of timelined activities that you can talk about that are happening. But our coverage was also so different during that time. We're live right now 24/7 for the entire mission. But during Artemis 1, we were only live for launch and translunar injection. We went live again for lunar flyby, and then we came back on the air for splashdown. So we didn't have this big marathon of being live all the time. So preparation for me for Artemis 1 was very, I don't want to say easy because it wasn't, but it really stops after launch and translunar injection, whereas this one, I have to know what they're doing every single hour of every single day and how to explain that to the world.
Right. What have been some of the more poignant times that maybe moments during Artemis 2 that you found yourself experiencing while you're doing commentating?
Oh my goodness. Everything about flyby day was very, very poignant and very memorable. This is a very thoughtful crew, and they know the weight of their words. Hearing, the crew potentially naming some craters today, or proposing names for craters, and one of them being for Reed Wiseman's late wife, was very touching, and the whole room felt that emotion. And so that is certainly one. And something that has really stuck out to me was an answer Victor Glover gave a couple of days ago during a public affairs interview, talking about just his thoughts before the Easter weekend. And I can't remember it exactly, and I don't want to mess it up because he was so well spoken in it. And then another was Christina Cook, and we had given them the go for translunar injection burn. So this commits them to flying around the moon. It's their, it's also their deorbit burn. It's their splashdown burn. And so when they got the go, she said, with this burn, we don't leave Earth, we choose it. And I thought that was so well spoken, because it's true. I mean, yes, they are leaving the Earth's orbit in a way, but also they are committing to that splashdown. So, so well thought out. And I just have such admiration for this whole crew and how well spoken they are.
What led to your comment today, quoting the song "How Great Thou Art"? Tell me about that build up.
For me, it goes back to the Apollo 8 mission. That's one of my favorite missions of all time. And it was obviously before I was born. But I think a lot about the crew reading Genesis, coming around the moon after flyby, and how those words have just gone down in history. And he spoke a lot to the world at that time. And of course, the astronauts' words are far more important than anything I could ever say. And so I think Victor Glover characterized everything perfectly about saying the first commandment is to love the Lord your God, and the second greatest commandment is to love your neighbor as yourself. And so hearing that and looking at the view we had on the screen at that time, which was all of, our creation of the earth, of the moon, just things that we identify so closely with, I just really felt, I don't know, looking at that, and you hear comments like the ones that Victor made, it's very hard to deny how great God is in that moment, to me personally.
I think sometimes, Leah, people just associate NASA with science, and there's this divorce from science and faith, which is not true. I know getting to know people out there is not true. Can you speak on that? How do you find that in your own experience working out there?
Yeah, I came out here as an intern in 2015, and I was a little bit expecting the same. And I was very glad to find how wrong I was. I've heard a quote before that science is the how, but God is the why. And I think that's a very interesting answer. I mean, everyone here absolutely believes in the science behind all of the things that we do. But there are several, members of the NASA family that also have rich faith lives. And so I've been very heartened to have, feel like I can express those feelings, and that I have people that I work with or that I know that are also believers. Yeah, it was very uplifting to come here and over the years to meet more and more people who have a faith that they are proud to share.
So, touching just briefly, Leah, about your own faith tradition, your own history as a believer, is it something that you were sort of born into? A lot of people, they're born and they're old enough to go to church, they go to church, and, whatever their faith is, their family probably taught them. Or did you come into it as you were a little bit older?
So I was raised in the church. I am so grateful for that as well. I have so many good memories and people, in my home church, I'm from Georgia, that are still like family to me. But I really made that choice for myself. I would say when I was probably 15, when I started to, really seek what my faith meant to me and to read my Bible for myself and to seek out, other churches that were different than the one I had been raised in, and experienced just different parts of faith like that. And, again, I have the best family at our church out here. So, yes, it was something that I was born into. I'm grateful to have been raised that way. And I think that's biblical, too. The Bible says to train a child up in the way they should go. And when they're old, they will not depart from it. And so that's been true in my life. And it's been just such a grounding experience, to work in a place that can even be very stressful at times and to walk away and know that my identity is not here, but it's in Jesus.
And in family life, what does your husband think about all this and these, the stuff that you're doing as part of your responsibilities at NASA and this very historic moment that we're all living in? What are his thoughts?
He works at NASA as well,
Okay.
actually. So he works at Ellington Field. He is a flight science officer out there. He works on their safety program. He's held a lot of roles out there. And so he's an engineer. He is brilliant. And gosh, he's so supportive. I don't know how much he's been actually able to watch the coverage. He did watch, let's see, lunar flyby part of it today. But he has been like my best supporter at home, taking care of our little boy. That is such a big job because he's not even a year old yet. So waking up in the middle of the night and making sure he's, trying new foods and doing all the things you have to do with a little boy. He has been so supportive and selfless. And, there's never an expectation of, okay, well, when you're done with this, I'm going to go get to do this. But it's just so much support. And he tells me he's so proud of me and I feel it. So I appreciate it.
I think it's very common for the media to seek out the interviews of the astronauts, maybe occasionally a flight director or administrator or, someone like that. Oftentimes, I think the people behind the scenes that are doing as much, if not more work than the ones that get more, in the attention in the public. Folks such as, flight controllers, directors, yourself, storytellers. I mean, you're telling the story of human spaceflight back to the moon. What do you think about that? I mean, that responsibility, and also that privilege that you have in the place that you'll now find yourself in history when people go and do research and archives on this mission?
It's funny how much attention this mission has gotten because I've done commentary for so many things. I covered Crew 1 launch to the International Space Station and, CFT with Butch and Sunny. I covered their docking, which has become very interesting. And I've covered so many different things that I've never seen people. And of course, like I mentioned, Artemis 1 launch as well, but just nothing, people have not latched on to that like they have to this. And I'm not used to anybody, even recognizing my name or, giving kudos or anything like that during a mission for coverage and commentary. And that's fine because we are just the storytellers. We didn't build the spacecraft. We didn't train the crew. And so our job is really to highlight those people. Like today, I got to talk to 4 of the science team members that have been preparing for this day for years. And so for me, I'm okay with if I am not remembered for what I covered in this. I'm just grateful that I got to do it. And if it is remembered that I got to cover it, then that's great too. And I would be so happy, for my children and maybe my grandchildren to watch the coverage back someday.
And maybe the last couple of questions I have to respect your time. One, Leah, would be, I guess, your insight and advice for the next generation or even the current generation of storytellers. There's a lot of people that may watch or read this, listen to it. They may think, I would love to do what she's doing. Or I would love to be involved with telling a story with such impact on our society as a species. What advice would you have with them as far as maybe improving their work if they're in it now, or if they're thinking about getting into it now or in the future?
Oh, I mean, I come from a town of 5,000 people. I am the first to graduate, from my family from college. And so I'm from Georgia. Like, I don't have any connection to being somewhere like this and telling a story like this. I just had a lot of support from the people around me. And I think, everyone has a support system if they have a dream. I think that you have somebody that would cheer you on and encourage you. And so my advice really is that everybody needs a storyteller. I didn't realize that I could work at NASA until I saw one of my colleagues on a press conference. And I thought, oh, NASA needs me, I have a place here. And so that for me was really eye-opening to realize if you are a communications person, a storyteller, if you're good at social media, or if you like to make, edit videos or edit podcasts or something like that, that is such a broad world that you could work anywhere. You could tell anybody's story. And if you're lucky, and you work hard and you don't give up on that, you can tell a story that you're passionate about. So that to me is the most important advice. And the worst thing anybody can say is no. My parents always told me that, reach out and ask for the opportunity. And if someone tells you no, you're in the same position as you were before. And what's so bad about that? So that's my best advice, I think, for people who are aspiring to do something that they're just not into yet. But if you're trying to hone your skills, I would say get involved in things that you don't feel good at yet. I really wanted to improve my interview skills a couple of years ago, I guess a few years ago now, and we had some openings to join our podcast team. And so I knew that I was really not a great interviewer, but I wanted to be better at it. And so I joined the podcast team, and I feel like those skills have really improved over the last few years, and every day builds on itself for the next.
Okay. And so now that you've had this extra experience becoming a better interviewer, same advice to those people if they're looking to get into journalism or podcasting or anything where there's interviews involved, what are your tips to becoming a better interviewer?
Oh gosh, well, I think you need to know your subject material. It's not smart to walk into an interview with just a list of questions and no personal opinions about it or no background knowledge about it yourself. Yeah, I mean, I think that's really the fundamentals of asking the best questions, is being able to have a dialogue with somebody who feels comfortable speaking with you, and that you feel comfortable sharing your opinions with or your thoughts with as you're having a conversation and not just an interview. Because a lot of people are very nervous during interviews, and then, it's not enjoyable for them and you might not get the best answers that you're looking for. So really knowing your subject matter, doing a little bit of research on the person you're interviewing, on what they're specialized in, on their story, helps ask more informed and intelligent questions that they really appreciate and that you can turn into that conversation instead of just firing off questions one after one.
The hardest interviews you've conducted, I know for me personally, I don't know necessarily the hardest, but the most difficult interviews are with people who really don't have much to say in response to your question. Okay.
Yes.
You ask them a question and it's very matter of fact. It's one or two sentences at the most, and then you're kind of left there with your mouth open, thinking, oh, okay, what's next?
Now what?
And now what? How do you handle that? And what's your advice for handling the tough interviews?
Oh my goodness. I think just finding things that they're excited about, and I don't think it's ever necessarily bad to ask a question of, is there something about this topic that excites you the most? And that's not your first question, but if you're noticing that a few times and people are, you're just getting short answers, I think it's a doorway to get somebody excited and comfortable into something that they would love to share. And then you can kind of piggyback off of that. Maybe something piques your interest in their answer, and you can formulate new questions based on that, or remodify your other questions to kind of be along those lines. Or maybe you've just made your interviewee comfortable enough that they're ready to share more.
Okay. And in conclusion, what are you looking forward to the next, I guess almost a little over 4 days from now?
So I will be back on air tomorrow and the day after, just wrapping up the mission. And then on flight day 9, I'll fly out to San Diego. I'm kind of a support person for when the crew comes home, and hopefully I'm not needed at all. The goal is I'm only there if they need to go get checked out in a hospital. And sometimes, we do that, and it's just because we don't have, we just want them to get checked out. It doesn't have to be an emergency. But I'm hoping that they come home and feel so good that they just get on the plane and head back to Ellington for their heroic welcome. So that's the goal. That's what I'm looking forward to, is seeing them and wave to them while they get on that plane.
Very good. Well, Leah, it was good to have you coming on the interview, and I appreciate all your insight and your experience, and I wish you all the best in the days that come.
Oh, thank you so much. It was great to talk to you, and I really appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit more about what we've been doing.
If you enjoyed this video, consider supporting our effort to share the news in print and on our extensive website, and now on our new YouTube channel. Contact publisher David Day at area code 409-943-4265 to support the Post newspaper today.